Welcome back to Double R Restorations. My name is Russell. If this is your first time visiting my channel, I want you to check out the playlist on my 1972 Camaro. Also, be sure to subscribe. So you guys probably will remember where we left off last time. I had welded all these holes up. Like I said, we're getting ready to figure out exactly where to place them. So guys, this is part 2 of the trim stud oversight video. If you haven't seen part 1, I'll put a link up in the corner for that video. That way this will make a little bit more sense to you. So right now I have the driver's side complete with the trim screws, and they're right. And then I have fixed the passenger side where I had kind of set the depth and made them too tight. So you guys seen that in the last video. And now I've got it back to normal and I'm getting ready to put the trim studs back on it. I've got to thinking about it and I've got to looking at it. One thing that I've noticed is that the door frame, there's a small gap right in between the frame and the skin. And this trim actually has to fit over there, and you're going to see it's going to be real tight right in here. And I was test fitting that to the new panel and my frame over here on the workbench. Super tight to get that on there. It's always a chore to get these to snap over the trim clips, and you're working with a freshly painted surface. And you can just imagine how easy that is to actually scratch that paint there. I got to looking at my fender, and although I have this lined up really well, this particular piece does not line up too well with that. Something else, I'm going with a cow hood on this car, and I don't have the hood trim, so I was going to have to buy that. And my plan was to actually, up here where the cow would be, to cut that trim and either do some type of welding it up or some type of finish work that basically it would come up and stop at the cow. What a lot of people will do if they put a cow hood on a car that has this trim, they'll usually leave off this fender piece and they'll just have this. If I don't use this Z21 trim, I'll show you what the options are. Let's go to the other side of the car. So this is the borrowed door from my 81 Z28 project, and you can see here that it has a different piece of trim on it with the weather stripping, and this is pretty much wore out. You can see how cracked it is. It's actually supposed to lay over the top here a little bit better, and this is what you would call the thin chrome bead that comes down. And you'll notice it stops just short of halfway thereabouts under the A-pillar. Like I said, that's one option. The other option is they make one that has a wider chrome bead, so the weather stripping actually would come down, and I think it's about a 1/4 inch wide, and then there's another little piece of weather stripping, and it would come right down into this area. It would also stop about the same place. And right now I'm actually thinking about going ahead and ordering a set of the wide chrome bead and getting it in here, taking a look at it on the car, and making my mind up from that point to whether or not I will continue with the trim studs or actually go back to the driver's side and just do the same thing that we've done on the passenger side, basically get it back to square one and go with that route. It's a big decision, and just looking back at some of the things that I've been through on this, trying to get the trim studs right. I was looking at pictures online of the cars, and it's not a big difference. I really don't think it's that noticeable, and with the wide chrome bead, it may actually clean the car up a little bit as far as the looks of it. So it's just something that I'm going to have to decide. So guys, today it's December the 4th, and with it being Christmas time, I didn't really have much of a budget for this car. And so what I'm going to do is look about getting that wide chrome bead ordered sometime next month, and then I'll make a final decision on whether or not to continue with the trim screws or just to scrap the idea and go a different route. That's what I'm thinking anyways. So I've still got quite a bit of work to do on the door skins and the frames as far as getting them prepped for welding and prepped for final installation. You guys might remember the accident damage that I had on the driver's door frame. I've got quite a bit of sanding to do there before I'm ready to coat the front part of that door frame with epoxy. Also, I've got the weld through primer to get done on the driver's side door skin. So there is quite a bit of work to do. I'm going to be concentrating on that. So guys, I got the epoxy down, and I believe it'll block out. We'll just have to see, but it doesn't look too bad. It's been done now for a couple of days. I actually took it inside because it's been real cold. I took it inside and put it in our spare bedroom for a few days, and just have brought it back out to the garage. So I thought we'd give this a try on camera and see how it blocks out. You know, you always want to use the longest block possible. Yeah, it's already touching down up here. It's just the way this thing's sitting on the stand. But you can see real quick, this all is low. You can see how shiny it is. I love this SPI epoxy just for this. It sands really well. And basically this black is like a built-in guide coat. You can still see it's got some low in it. And I use my shop vac to keep from blowing all this stuff all over the garage. I usually don't like the sand in here, but it's dark outside and it's about, I think it's about 30 degrees out there right now. And like I said, I should be using a longer block here. But this thing is not, it's sitting on this stand and it's just a flimsy piece of sheet metal. You can see right there, it is starting to come out just a little bit. I've already touched down on this other side, and I'm doing this to kind of give me an idea, trying to make a decision on those other trim studs. This will give me an idea of what I'm actually in for on the other door skin if I choose to eliminate the trim studs. Right there's the low spot, and that would probably be a little bit worse if I had a longer block. But like I said, guys, this is just a flimsy piece of sheet metal at this stage. It has no shape to it really, but this will give us an idea of what we're looking like. Like I said, this looks really bad at first when you look at it. That one I believe will block all the way out. It's actually the one we did on camera, and it actually turned out the best. So just bringing it back like it was. I'm not sure if this is going to pick up, but there's epoxy all over the wall here. Pretty bad. And I'm just not real sure what I'm going to do with that guy I got mixing my paint, because usually he's making a mess on the workbench and spilling everything on it. This time he decided to spray it all over the wall, and he made a pretty good little mess. So guys, I got this area repainted, and I used just cheap paint on this side of the garage, and it really doesn't cover that well. But one good thing about it is it's very hard to tell where it was ever painted. Blends in really well. So that's kind of a plus for it. And next time I mix any paint in this area, I'm just going to put up a little bit of masking paper as a backsplash. Here's the driver's side door frame. And I've been sanding on this thing already for hours with everything that I can think of. Scotch-Brite pads, sandpaper, just trying to get into all these nooks and crannies and all that stuff. I probably will take this thing outside and blast this weld seam here just so the epoxy sticks really good in it. And there's a couple spot welds on the back there that I want to blast. But I've still got all this side to sand, all down in here, and I've got all this back side to sand. I do have my tape laid out to where I'm just painting epoxy just on this area alone. We'll be masking the rest of the door. So this is the area here that we're going to be respraying. Got a couple evenings in this already, and I sanded till I couldn't feel my fingertips anymore, and I just had to stop. And I'm just trying to get every bit of this. Just screwdrivers, sticking Scotch-Brite pads down in there, just anything that I can think of. So that's kind of where I'm at on that, and I'll bring you back when we'll get it all sanded, we'll get it prepped, and I'll bring you back for some epoxy shots. So we've got plenty of epoxy and well-through primer to apply, and I'll bring you along for some of that. Then in January, we'll get that trim in. I'll lay out my strategy for the plans that I have for getting these skins actually folded onto the door frame. And then also we'll look about getting started on the 2018 action items that I've outlined in the channel trailer. Basically the back of the car, getting started on that. So I'm ready to move forward. I know you guys are probably sick of door skin videos, and I promise you we're going to get through it, but it's all got to be done. But I'm ready to move on to a different part of the car for sure. Then throughout the rest of the month of December, I've got a lot of loose ends to kind of button up in the garage, and I'll bring you along for some of that as well.